What's up you guys, Charles here and welcome back to the channel. Now today's video is a pretty important video and about a topic that I think everyone should know about, and this is just personal finance, but it's all the different parts of personal finance that you need to know about, and that of course you weren't taught in school. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. The channel is all about helping under 30-year-olds understand stuff about money that they were never taught in school, so if that sounds like you, smash that subscribe button. Now without further ado, let's jump right into the video. Now the first very important thing about money that never is taught in school is how to make money last, and it's a pretty simple point but never taught, and it's essentially either you need to earn more or spend less, and ideally both. See, we kind of live in a culture where buying stuff is seen as cool, and people think the more expensive things you own, the better off you are in life, but that's just not true at all. You see, when you buy things, although it gives you an initial burst of dopamine and you feel happy for maybe maximum a week, you then go back to exactly the same level of happiness you were before. And the fact is that the day you die, you'll never remember the stuff you bought, but the experiences you lived. And a lot of people are materialistic and spend a lot of stuff on Gucci, Prada, and loads of other things that cost a huge amount of money, when actually they could be saving it to either buy new experiences like a holiday or backpacking with friends or something like that, but as well investing towards their retirement, where they'll be able to retire earlier and spend more time with their families. And you sort of have to have that longer approach and long-term thinking instead of short-term thinking. Instant gratification is called when you buy stuff to have short-term happiness. But the main way to make your money last is you need to budget. You see, you need to give a certain percentage to the amount you put away for your retirement later on in life, a certain amount perhaps for your education so that you're able to make more money, a certain amount for your necessities, so that's food, that's your rent, mortgage, whatever you need to live essentially. Then of course there's funds, a certain percentage of funds, so this is going out with friends, buying stuff for yourself if you really need to, but also holidays and different experiences you want to have. Now also I think that a certain percentage, whether it be 1% or 5% of your income, should be contributed towards giving away, giving to charity, because I think, and this is just my view on things, but I think that we live a very privileged life, and a lot of people, for example, currently in the crisis in Yemen, people are hardly able to live off just like spoonfuls of sugar a day and dirty water, and they are likely to never be as privileged as we are, and so I think it's kind of a moral duty to give back. But of course some people even in the UK can't afford to live, and of course I don't say give away all your money if you've got nothing to spend, but also there's been studies showing that when you give away stuff you don't have a scarcity mindset, so you're not constantly holding on to your money, and it actually allows you to make more money. And if you want me to make videos on budgeting in the future, leave a comment below. I'd like to know your thoughts on it. But when budgeting, of course, you need to know your expenses and you need to know your income, whether that be, if you're a lot younger, how much birthday money you get, or later on in life your income or your student loans or whatever. You need to add up how much money is going in and how much money is going out, and then saving and investing the difference. The earlier you start saving and investing, the better. The second one, and perhaps not much talked about one, is how to negotiate, how to haggle. Because you see, when you go for a job or just anything, when you're trying to get a price on something, you don't get what the value of yourself, your qualities, or how much you're buying is. You get how much you negotiate for. If you're a good negotiator, you'll get higher wages, you'll be able to get clients to pay higher if you're on a contracting business. But also even just going down to the local farmers market, for example, and negotiating for some premium beef or something might even cost you less than the local meal deal, depending on how good you are negotiating. There's loads of books on how to negotiate, but also YouTube videos out there, or I'll make some in the future if you guys are interested in it. But it's a great life skill, but also monetary skill. Some great places to negotiate are also for your mobile phone contract, for your utilities, so this is gas, electricity. If your contract's about to run out, sometimes you can call them up, pretend you're going to cancel, but then be like, oh actually I'm not sure if I'm going to cancel, and then negotiate to get free texts, free calls, free 4G, but also get lower fees for your gas and electricity bills. And a quick and easy one also is asking for student discounts if you're a student, because often places don't advertise student discounts, but they actually do have some. You can get student discounts at Apple, you can get free Amazon Prime if you're a student, and loads of other things. Now the third point, and this is really like a very important point, is the dangers of debt. Now not all debt is bad. For example, getting a mortgage is actually sometimes good, because paying for a mortgage sometimes costs you less than your rent, and you're actually building equity, so how much you actually own of the property up, and that's an investment, right? You're making money off it, and then you can even buy to let, so you can buy a house and rent a room, and that's called house hacking. And so that's a sort of type of good debt. But the bad ones, for example, are stuff like credit card debt. They're extremely high. They're sometimes up to 30%, and they compound very quickly over time, which means you result in paying a lot larger amount than you actually paid out. And on top of this, it can affect your credit score in the future, which is one of the points I'm going to address just a bit later. But just as a general rule, never get into bad debt or high interest debt unless you're making money off it. Simple rule, makes sense, but a lot of people get into it. A lot of people pay their credit cards late and so get into a huge amount of debt. Some take out payday loans, which are extremely high interest loans, and they just get stuck into it and it ruins their life, and they get depressed and loads of other things just because they didn't know how to manage their debt properly, and what is good debt and bad debt, and what type of debt they should be using. So don't make that same mistake. Now the fourth one is how to improve your credit score. Now I've done quite a few videos on credit score and how to build your credit and why it's good. But firstly, what is a credit score? A credit score is a score given to you based on how much credit you've used in the past. So credit is money you don't own, so money that's lent to you, and it depends on how well you pay it back, how much money you take compared to how much money you have available. So for example, if your credit limit on a credit card is £100 and you take £10 out, you're using 10% of your credit. It's called the credit utilization ratio, and that plays a large factor in your credit score. But also other facts like how long you've used credit for, how well you've paid it back, if you've ever missed any payments or not, and all these factors are taken into account by an algorithm and shows how good your credit score is. But the reason you want a good credit score is if you have a bad one, you sometimes won't get accepted for mortgages, you'll have bad rates, interest rates on mortgages, which means you'll have to pay a lot more money, which will cost you thousands if not tens of thousands more over time. You'll also be less likely to be accepted for even simple stuff like mobile phone contracts, gas bills, loans for a car, and all sorts of other types of loans. And so you need to know how to build these up. I've done a few videos on them and I'll probably keep on doing some more in the future on these, but you want to have a good credit score. And you can even just go to Experian or Equifax or TransUnion's websites. These are credit bureaus, and they'll tell you what your credit score is and how you can improve it. Now another important point is how interest actually works, because you see there's something called inflation, where every year your money loses value by about 2.5%. And you see, if you just leave your money sitting in the bank, then your money is technically losing value, although you still have the same amount of value. You can buy less with that money, which is why you should invest it in somewhere where you get a positive return that is more than 2.5%, because even if it's just 2.5%, at least you're still keeping the same value for your money. And if it's more, then you're increasing the value of your money. You're making your money work for you instead of working for your money. So interest is used in a bunch of different places. So inflation is a certain amount of interest where your money loses value. For credit card repayments, this is bad interest again, and this is how much you need to pay back on top of what you actually used. There's also better ones, so saving accounts, although those are usually pretty low, unfortunately, because of a bunch of crises we've had in the past, such as the 2008 financial crash, but also just leaving the EU with Brexit. That has lowered interest rates a lot on bank accounts. But if you're a savvy consumer, then you can move your money to the best interest rate bank accounts, and you have websites such as Money Saving Expert. They tell you which are the current best saving accounts or cash ISAs. But essentially you want to have your money where you can get the most amount of interest for it. And those places constantly change. And perhaps my favorite is why you should have a credit card. Now, I've done a few videos on credit cards in the past and credit score and stuff, but credit cards are just great products if you use them correctly, and obviously terrible products, as I said before. You can get into really bad debt if you don't know how to manage your money, and should only get credit cards if you can manage your money. But if you use these credit cards correctly, well, that's when it's amazing. Because firstly, not only do credit cards allow you to build pretty easily your credit score and allow you to have a large credit history, they also help with cash flow. So if you aren't getting paid today, but you're getting paid tomorrow, but you need to meet your bill or something, some sort of bill that you need to pay out today, and you don't have that money to hand right now, you can use your credit card for that. But you have to make sure to pay it off, of course, and you have to make sure you can afford it, but then you can pay it off as soon as you receive your paycheck, for example. So it helps with cash flow issues, but that's a very minor aspect. You can also, as you climb the credit card ladder, you see, you start with ones to build your credit, and then when you have better credit, you can apply for better credit cards, and then you get to reward cards, where when you sign up, you get a sign-up bonus as long as you meet a minimum spending requirement within a certain amount of time. And if you meet that minimum spending requirement, they give you air miles, for example, that you can then use to travel for free hotel rooms also. And you also have different types of cards which give you cash back. So every time you use your card, you get cash back. So 1 to 2%, rarely 3%, normally around 1 to 2% back on the money you spend. So you're just getting free money back by just using a credit card instead of using cash, which I find is amazing, and you should definitely take advantage of that. And another great use for credit cards, which links back to my first point, is it helps you budget, because you can, if you use exclusively your credit cards and you use an app then to see where you're spending your money, well, you're able to track all your expenses and you're able to see where you're buying stupid stuff and where you can save money on and where you can cut down on. And that's just an amazing thing. And once you get older and older and you get further down the credit card ladder and you have a good credit score and a lot of credit history, I've done a video on credit card churning, which is essentially signing up for these cards, meeting the minimum spending requirement that you already spent anyway, you're not spending more just to meet this requirement, and then you get the sign up bonuses and you either close the card or you keep it open depending on whether the rewards are worth it or not, and you then apply for another one 6 to 8 months after, then do the same thing, get all these airline miles packed up, and then you can travel for free. Now a seventh point is just shopping around for the best deal. You'd be surprised how many people, although it's probably not you because you've already subscribed to the channel and you know how to manage your money responsibly, but people often don't look for the best deals, and although it can take a lot of time and it's sometimes not worth it depending on how much your time is worth, but just knowing which bank account gives you the most interest can save you a lot of money. Just buying the best holiday package can save you a lot of money. Buying the best plane tickets can save you a lot of money. Buying the best train tickets can save you a lot of money. That's why comparison websites are great for travel and loads of other things. Another thing is you can't trust everything that advertisers tell you. For example, even just for credit cards, they tell you a certain interest rate that you'll get when you get the credit card, but actually they only need to give it to 51% of all customers, and they'll only give it to the best customers. So if you're not the best customer, then you won't get that interest rate and you'll get a higher one, which you didn't know when you were signing up, because they say you'll get that, but actually they only are required to give 51% of their customers that rate. And there's loads of other things where people say it's free, but actually you need to pay something behind the scenes or something. It's just not always as it seems, and as some people say, you always get caught in the drive-through. So just beware of advertisers, and especially nowadays where you get blasted with ads everywhere you go, whether it's like before or after my YouTube video, or just when you're searching up on Google, walking down the streets, going through your Instagram, going through your, I don't know, TikTok, or just anything, you get blasted with ads. I think there's a study showing that we get blasted with 1,000 ads a day, and you know, some of them are promoting good products, and I'm not 100% against advertising. I myself have taken a few courses on marketing and advertising, and I know that some people advertise their products because they're good products, but there are also a lot of bad products, and you need to realize that these people are paying for ads because they know they can get money back on it, and sometimes that's for negative reasons, and there are scammers out there. Especially in the world of education, there are a lot of people that sell courses for way more than they know, and they sometimes don't even know about the course themselves, and they've never been a forex trader or whatever, but they've got a forex trader to do the course for them. They just say it, and they get paid way more from just selling you that course than they actually do from forex trading. In fact, I can make a video if that's interesting to you, to how people market their courses. I know that quite in depth, and I've taken a few courses on it. So if that's interesting, leave a comment below. I'll make sure to make a video about that in the future. Probably name it something like the dark truth behind fake gurus or something like that. Comment below if you think it's a good idea. Now another one, although it might seem obvious, but a lot of people don't do it, is to check your bank statements, because nowadays, especially with most of the consumerism being online and not in retail stores anymore, and even in retail stores they use something that's connected to the web, a lot of hackers exist out there, and a lot of people that use your credit card and do small payments every month just to get some money for them and buy things with it. And if you don't check your bank account statements or credit card statements and check off everything that you spent on that credit card to make sure that you've actually made those purchases, then someone can sneak a purchase through, and it can be hundreds of pounds, and you won't ever know about it and claim it back. So make sure you do that, because the threat is getting ever and ever larger. Now this one, I know I've said I talk about a huge amount about credit cards, but the other super interesting thing is compound interest. I just think it's amazing that you can invest a certain amount consistently and invest it where you gain interest on it, and that compounds over time. So compound interest is essentially, if you get 5% on £100, then you get £105 back, but then and you keep on getting 5% over time, but then you're getting 5% on the £105, which is more, which then you get 5% on that, and then 5%, and it starts off sort of straight, but over time it grows exponentially. And this, if you harness it correctly, can actually make you a millionaire if you invest consistently over your lifetime. And it's actually pretty easy to do. As long as you invest a certain amount of your income consistently over time into either a pension or an ISA, where it's tax-free on your capital gains. But as I was saying, if you invest it consistently into the stock market, for example, where on average you get an 8% return on your money, if you invest the dividends back, and you have a diversified portfolio, which means you don't take too much risk. You can watch some of my videos on it, and I'll make some in the future. But it increases over time because that 8% compounds and adds up over time, and you end up with an exponential graph like this. And as you get towards retirement, you get a lot of money, and that's why the earlier you start and the more you invest as you're younger, the better off you'll be. You'll be able to either retire earlier, if that sounds appealing to you, or retire whenever you want, but you'll just have more of an income and you'll be able to live a better lifestyle. Then that's just through understanding this pretty simple concept, which is taking a certain amount of what you earn, investing it in a tax-free account, so an individual savings account or a pension, and leveraging that money through interest to then make that money make you more money. Now, another thing is that a lot of us think there's only one way to make money, and that's through trading your time for money, right? Working a 9-to-5 job. But that's not the only case. You can also have something called leverage income or passive income. Leverage income is where you use other people's time to make you more money. So having employees, for example, is leveraging. Although you're still working, you're using those employees to make you more money, but you have to pay them still. So that's leverage income. But there's also passive income, where you put a lot of either time or money to then reap the rewards later in the future. So for example, when you're buying a house to rent it, then you're investing a certain amount, right, into that house, and that's money up front in exchange for renting it out, which gives you passive income, although it's semi-passive unless you have a property manager, right? Because you need to go clean it, put flowers when the guests arrive, for example. But it's basically passive income, right? You can go to sleep and you're still earning money. It's making money while you sleep. And that passive income can also be through other forms, such as dividends. Dividends is when you invest in a stock, in the stock market, and they give you a certain percentage of the value of that stock in exchange for, as sort of a present for investing in them and believing in that company. But another form of passive income is, for example, me making this YouTube channel, right? It takes me hours and hours to edit these videos, even though they're pretty short normally, and it takes me hours to film them because I always stutter. But I'm hoping that later on I will be able to build a big following where firstly I'm going to be able to help a lot of people understand stuff about money, but also I'm going to be able to build it into a passive income stream in the side, which will hopefully allow me to go traveling more, for example, because I'll have you liking and commenting on every single video so that it reaches more people. And it's a great passive income thing because although I might not see any rewards for the next year or so, I know that the rewards can be great, and on top of that, on the journey getting there where I will be able to make some money, I will also be helping a lot of people along the way, which is amazing for me. Now, another thing is pensions. Now, I know, like, I'm 18 and I know that pensions seem like something a long way away, right? Because essentially you're putting money away now so that when you retire, you'll be able to have money to retire. But think about it this way, your future self will be like, thank you so much for starting so early, taking advantage of compound interest so that I can have a lot of money now to spend time with my family, to go traveling more, and to have a better lifestyle. And so you need to commit now that you're going to save a certain amount of your income, put it into your pension or ISA, as I've said, invest it, let that compound grow exponentially over time, and so that your future self, which will hopefully reward you for that little amount of your income you put away every month for the whole of your life, just so you in the future could live a better life. Now, another point is you need to know whether you want to rent or buy, because at some time in your life you're probably going to want to buy a house, because owning a house is cheaper than renting, right? Because even though you have to pay a mortgage for a certain amount of time, and that costs money, sometimes even the mortgage of the house is less than the rent you would actually pay if you were to live in the same house. And on top of that, you're building equity into your house over time. And you become, you know, a proper adult now. You've got your own house, it's a good thing. It doesn't have to be a house, especially in London where house prices are astronomical, but it could be a flat. And the great way to build equity and get a house or a flat is called house hacking, where you buy a house, right? Save a certain percentage of the house's value or flat's value, normally 10 to 20% of it, put that as what's called a down payment, and then get a mortgage for the rest of the value where the bank lends you money to pay for the house, and then you pay it back over time. Now, that amount can be covered by if you rent a room, even just off Airbnb, or have flatmates, and so you pay the mortgage, but they pay you rent, and that rent covers your mortgage, which essentially allows you to live for free, and you're building equity in the house, so technically you're getting paid to live there. And then once you build that property up, you can then either sell it or leave that property, do the same thing in the next property, and then you're actually building up your net worth, right? And a lot of self-made millionaires have done so through property, through doing this sort of stuff, and although you start small, it gets bigger and bigger over time. Now, the government does do schemes to help you buy a house. Now, for example, there was a Help to Buy ISA, although it's not available anymore, unfortunately, where you contributed every month and they match 25% of whatever you put in, and you could only take that money out to buy a house and have a mortgage on it. They still have something called a Lifetime ISA, or LISA for short, where it's the same thing. You put money in, you're only allowed maximum £4,000 a year to put in, and they'll pay you 25% of whatever you put in on top of that. So for example, if you put £4,000 in, which is the maximum, they'll give you £5,000. But then you're restricted where you can only take that money out if I think it was 65, I've made a video on it, 65 years old, or to buy a house which is worth less or equal to £450,000, and it has to be your first residential property. But you can use these schemes to, well, get that 25% extra money, but also you can invest within those LISAs so that it compounds, and so you can get that down payment on the house and then get your mortgage and then build your way up that ladder. But there are also advantages to renting, of course. If you're moving around a lot with your job or whatever you have, or want to move around a lot, then you might want to rent because it offers you that opportunity of moving, whilst when you have a house, you're kind of tied to that location. Now, the infamous one that you need to know about when coming to personal finance is taxes, of course. You know, one of the guaranteed things in life is taxes. Is you die and you pay taxes. Those are the only two guarantees you get in your life. You get taxed in so many places, right? You get taxed on the income you make, you get taxed on if you make money when investing, if it's not inside an individual savings account, for example. You also get taxed on the interest you make in just a savings account over a certain amount. You get taxed on the dividends that I talked about that the companies give you over a certain amount. You get taxed if your parents die, and you get inheritance tax on that. So whatever the money they have that they want to give to you when they die, that is taxed by the government, and you're just taxed absolutely everywhere. So you need to know about these taxes. The main ones you need to know about are income tax, and this depends on which pay bracket you're in. But to sum it up quickly, currently anything up to £12,500 you're not taxed on. Then you're taxed 20% on everything you earn from £12,500 to £45,000, and then in another tax bracket above that you pay 40%, and then 45% in a different one. I can make a video about that if that interests you guys. Once again, leave the comments below because it just really helps me know what you want me to make videos about in the future. And last but not least is you need to know where to invest your money, because if you're not investing it somewhere where you can not take a huge amount of risk, right, because you need to take some risks to make some money, and that's just a fact for the most part, especially when investing. But you can take calculated risks and you can take low risks for a decent amount of rewards. So investing in a diversified portfolio where you make around 8% per year with dividends reinvested into the portfolio, then you're making good money, right, in terms of stock market value. You can also make more money by, I don't know, forex trading, apparently. I've never actually tried it, but apparently you can make a lot of money off that, or trading crypto and a bunch of other things, or just investing in yourself on your own side business. But you need to know where you're investing your money, and you need to know that you're investing in a good place. I've made some videos on why you should invest in index funds over mutual funds, because they have different costs, and index funds are a lot cheaper and often outperform mutual funds. Now, if you're wondering what those are, I'll link it either in the description or above the video I did on it, but it's pretty interesting and you should definitely know about it. But listen, all these things don't come given, and obviously you need to learn about them, but they're really worth learning about them, because if you learn about them, they save you a lot of money just in life, and over the long term you'll be able to retire so much earlier if you know all these things and manage your money properly. And there's even a community called FIRE, which stands for Financially Independent Retire Early, where people save as much as they can, make as much as they can, and live a very restricted lifestyle just to be able to retire early and then have a choice on what they want to do later. So for example, they give up all their 20s and save and invest all they can and get that compound up so that they have enough passive income from these dividends or whatever, so that they can cover their expenses and then go traveling or take a different job or start their own business or different things they want to do. And I personally kind of believe in that, but I also think obviously you only live once and your 20s are some of the best years in your life. So I'm not going to give up all my 20s and live a terrible life, but I'm definitely going to restrict myself and not live like a lavish lifestyle in my 20s, because no one expects you as a student in your 20s to have a huge amount of money. And so it's literally fine living with a bunch of flatmates to save some money in like a ghetto part of town or whatever, because you see, you're thinking ahead. You're thinking that in your 30s and 40s you're now going to be able to do what you want, but you just need to invest in your side business or something. Start something that will then give you passive income later in life. Now, thank you so much for watching. If you've gained any value in this video, really appreciate it if you did smash that like button, because it really helps me and the channel reach more people thanks to the YouTube algorithm. And of course, if you've got any questions, I try to answer as many of them as I can in the comments below. And if you're under 30 and interested in about how to manage money, make money, save money, and anything money related really, and also I want to make some travel videos in the very near future. So if that sounds appealing to you, smash that subscribe button too, and see you next time.